so that you either have your camera on or off, how you choose. And I just want to let you know that it will be started now for that. The people that aren't here could enjoy it.
Fair warning.
Because it'll be lovely. All right, well, oops, welcome. You're here because we're competing online this year, right? Oh, there we go. And it's going to be different. So this is going to go over our 4 things. Rule changes, new things that we're doing specifically for broadcasting duo and multiple, the online best practice document and ideas that we have done before, some tab room help since we are using the NSDA campus platform. So Courtney is going to go over some of the resources to help us figure out what that looks like for those of us that are unfamiliar with that platform. Have some time for Q&A, and then obviously our contact information is there at the end in case you have questions in the future. Yes, Jen?
And I was just going to say, if you have questions, as Danielle's going to present like nearly all of this. If you have questions about something, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I will try to prompt her, at a break in the conversation or at an appropriate time.
John, we've got Courtney and I are both manning the chat. So
whoa, you are.
We'll be able to answer questions in chat as they come up.
Lots of people there. That's great. I'll stop every so often to ask, for questions, but they'll stop me too if there seems to be a preponderance. But that way I can focus on what I'm saying and not looking at the chat because I don't have the skill to do both. All right, let's move on to our first category here where we're talking about rule changes. So the biggest, I think, rule change would be in broadcasting. One thing to understand for all of these changes that we're talking about, they are temporary changes. We are only doing them for our online competitions, which we hope would only be this year. So note that these changes, we're not locking them in for the future. If they end up being liked, we might consider them for the future, but this is just for this season for online competition. So broadcasting is going to be similar to the middle school level that's been running for the last year or so, where instead of a student during their prep time receiving a full packet of articles that they choose from and cut and organize and do their entire prep during that 30 minutes, they're actually going to choose their articles and do all of that prep prior to the tournament. So the only thing they get during their 15-minute prep is the one article that they need to now include and then write their 1-minute editorial about. It's still a 5-minute presentation. The editorial is still suggested to be about 1 minute. And the difference is that the students are selecting the stories for the rest of the broadcast. They may choose to use those same set of stories for every round they compete in that day, obviously with the exception of the editorial that will be given to them new every round. Or they can change up one to all of them each round if they choose. So it's completely up to them if they want variety throughout the day. Perhaps, something big happens during the day and they want to add something in really quick. They can do that now. So you're probably going to see more recency than maybe we've seen in the past since we have to put them together and print them in so much advance for regular tournaments, right? So students choose their own stories. We are not telling them where they can or cannot get their stories. So it's up to us as coaches and hopefully there are other educators along the way to have taught them what, credible, accurate news looks like. And it can be part of a judge's paradigm to do that. But we won't be saying you can't use blank site or you must use only these sites. So I also linked the ballot. At the end of this presentation, I will put the link to the slides presentation in the chat so you guys can take it away with you if you want to review any of this material later. Because the link to the ballot's there and it's also on the web page, but I know sometimes it can be a little hard to find things on the web page if you're not on it as much as I am. Okay, so quick, any questions about broadcasting? I see in the chat, Ruth asks, how will the editorial be distributed? And that will be very well known and told to you by the tournament director when they have that information. Digitally, I can just tell you that. I don't know how, so it'll be, I don't know if it's going to be through the file sharing that they have on an SDA, or if they're going to have to, I'm not sure what the process is yet. I'm not sure that tournament directors have quite figured that part out yet either.
Do you want me to chime in, Danielle?
If you know, then yes.
Okay. Nope, it will be electronically in some manner, and it could differ at invitational tournaments. Obviously, I know that much of the season kicks off with MIFA's Punxsutawney, so we will communicate in advance of that tournament how we plan to do it. We're still, in full disclosure, we're still experimenting with a few different ways, and then we hope that tournaments will either try that or try their own thing, and then that will continue to get refined throughout the season, but will be communicated well in advance of the regional and state tournament.
Thank you. All right, so duo and multiple. There are 2 performance options that students have for duo and multiple this season, and they both have different restrictions or limitations due to those performance locations. They can choose to perform all together in the same physical location, or separately, like we are right now, in different Zooms. If they are going to choose the same location, they must remain 6 feet apart from each other. They must all be masked, and they need to confine their movement to a 36-inch diameter circle. So like it's an extra large hula hoop size. So if you visualize that on the ground, and they have to stay within that, and those have to be 6 feet apart from each other, for our social distancing. And there should be no singing, whistling, or beatboxing if you choose that same location option. And that was a decision because even with the masks that we have, the projectile still has been known to spread beyond that. And those 3 activities do in fact create spit. There's probably a nicer way to say that, I'm sorry. And then if you choose to do it in different locations, you have a little bit more freedom. You don't have to be masked. You can do any of those activities that, singing, whistling, beatboxing is fine. But you, just because we want to keep it a little bit more the same 36-inch circle for performance restriction also applies. So it'll be at least similar between the 2 in that rate. And then the other multiple change is that for this year, because again, if these students end up trying to do the same location option, they're going to have 1 stationary camera. So we've reduced the cast size to 3 to 5, and that should help eliminate it being so far away that we can't see them, and keep them at that nice social distance. So those are my differences and rule changes for duo and multiple this year. Are there any questions on those? Okie dokie. So best practices. This has been emailed out a couple of times through IE committee. It should have through the couple of the different MIFA emails that have gone out. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. If not, you really want to, because as you see, I keep updating it as things change, as questions come up, and we don't have, if we don't have an answer yet, we hadn't thought about it yet. We've just this week, we had an IE committee meeting and we added some more information on here because we were able to think about it and provide more guidance for this. So I'm just gonna kind of go through these different topics because I think it covers a lot of the questions that are frequently asked. Weird. So how does this online competition work? Right now, the MIFA has decided for their tournaments, and most of the other tournament directors have also decided to use the NSDA campus platform for our competitions. So that's why there's the part that is all crossed out on here with the strike through, because that was some language we had in there when we thought maybe we would be using something like this, like Zoom, but we will not be. And in order to do that, there's some things that you need to be able to do in advance to the first time you compete. And that means you, your other coaches, your judges, and all of your competitors need to make a tabroom.com account. And then they're gonna link it to your school account that you create as the head coach, if that's who you are. You only have to do that one time, fortunately. So it's not, you don't have to do it every single tournament. But that's also where we'll get to do the tournament registration. So you actually get to like put your whole like roster on, and then so you just are picking the kids that are already on the roster to register for each of the tournaments that you go to. So you don't even have to type them in every time like you had to on the other two sites that we've used before. So after you do it the first time, you're good. You just, it makes it a lot easier. What technology do you need? You and your students and your judges all need to have some sort of internet capable device, a tablet, a computer, a smartphone, and it needs to have a camera and a microphone. And because NSDA campus, their background, whatever, I don't know the right tech term for it, you need to have the Chrome browser as well to make it run. So that's something you might want to check with your students about for sure, because some people only have, Safari if they didn't add it on to like an Apple device, but you can, it's a free application. Some people had asked us, like, could students compete from their school or do they have to compete at home? And the answer is it's completely up to you and what the world is telling us we're allowed to do, what your school says you can do, what the state says you can do, and what you want to do for your team. I took off the virtual backgrounds information here because that is not an option on NSDA. Yes, John.
I just want to interject there because I had another question even today about having kids come to your school and compete from your school. I think several of you are considering that, especially because you might have better Wi-Fi at school, or just so that you have your whole team together, whatever your rationale is. The question was, do they need to be masked if they are each in their own classroom? So, one student per classroom. And our understanding is that would be acceptable for them to be unmasked in that situation, given even just the most recent orders that were put out by the governor and MDHHS yesterday or the day before. One of the few exceptions is for someone who is giving a speech, and the requirement is that the audience be at least 12 feet away. So if you've got one kid in a classroom doing their performance, that should be just fine for them to take off their mask during their performance, put it back on when they're in between rounds, or when they're going to, if you all are going to get together for lunch or something, if you're together with other people, mask on. If they're alone in a classroom to perform, it should be okay. But of course, check that with your district.
Yes, I feel like that it's likely that districts will have possible more strict restrictions than the state does. So always, whatever we say is not superseded by anything that your school says, or if the government changes its mind, whatever is the most strict, that's the thing that we're doing. Okay. All right. So moving on here to, are there restrictions for what the masks can look like? And not really, but just the regular costuming and prop rules apply. So consider it the same as any other medical device. Consider it a pair of crutches or glasses or an insulin pump at that point. You wouldn't, you can't hang a beard off of it, because then you've got kind of a prop, kind of a costume. So breaking two rules. But you wouldn't be able to hang that off of your glasses either. So if you think about it in that way, it should help clarify. Some people might choose to have something that's a little more plain so that it's not distracting. Some people might choose a color that, helps elicit a mood that their piece does. That's up to you guys, but it just can't be a costume and it can't be a prop. So are parents and coaches and friends allowed to watch the competition? And the answer is unfortunately no. It's just not an option in the platform, and it wouldn't be an option on other platforms either, just because we wouldn't be able to guarantee the safety and security for the students. And so yes, that's the sad part, but we're looking at, I know they tried some in debate, live streaming some rounds and the finals, and it worked out really well. So it looks like maybe we'll be able to, I don't know if the ability allows us to live stream every event, but we will look at how we can help get those performances out, because I know that that is really important. One, for being able to display what we do for our friends and family to see it, but also for other students to learn, right? And we want to be able to try to still do whatever we can to make that work. John, do you have any additional information about that, since you're the one that was doing the live streaming?
Oh, that's absolutely correct. We're sort of limited to how many, live streams we can have running at once. So we certainly won't be able to stream every event, but we'll probably pick a couple semis and a couple finals each weekend to stream. And it's fairly easy for those tournament directors that are out there or that are on the call here. We'd be happy to show you how to do that. If you've got a YouTube, it plugs in pretty quickly and easily to Tab Room and Campus.
Yes, I totally agree, Rob. Like most of us, we ask our students to go see, if they don't break, to go see other performances so that they can learn or at least support their teammates, right? So this would be a way to at least emulate that in a smaller level. So what are the expectations for the competitors in the round when they're not competing? So when they're the audience members. So we want the students that are performing to get some feedback from their audience, because also this is what we do, right? There is an element of give and take in performance. But we also don't want to have distractions. So we wanted to limit that as well. So our general behavior rules are the same, right? So the code of conduct should still be followed. Yeah, like we don't want to see kids on their phones as you're performing. And then our preference is that the cameras are on with the face showing when they're watching another performance, because then the performer can see them reacting. But that the microphones are off, because the likelihood of a distraction is more likely to be audio related, or an unknown and surprise would be audio related and not video related. But we understand everybody's got different situations where they're going to be performing. So if they think that they're going to have a potential issue with distracting environments, then it would be fine if the students turn off their cameras when they're an audience member. Like, let's say that they have several housemates, right? They have 3 or 4 other little ones in the house, and that they might be zipping around. That might be something that somebody who might want to just have their camera on during their performance. And it shouldn't be looked badly upon a student. It's just really to try to help the other students, and then themselves later, get some feedback from their performers, their audience members on their performance. The one change, and this is just added, so this is brand new since last time, is that for dual and multiple, the judges are likely going to want to ask all audience members to turn off their cameras, because NSCA Campus does not allow you to move around the tiles. But if the cameras are off, the ones that are on are consolidated to the top. So if everybody else has them off, then all 3 to 5 multiple members will be together at the top, not just randomly throughout your screen. So that would be the difference there. But no matter what the case is, for multiple, for a kid that has maybe environmental distractions, we do ask that you turn on cameras at the end of each performance so that you can show appreciation. So everybody shows appreciation for the performance. So you still get that interaction as well. Okay, so what happens when there are technical difficulties? It says if on here, but let's be real. When there are some. So we are using the general idea of the 15-minute rule that already exists. Which means that if a student is running late or caught up, they have 15 minutes to arrive and still be okay to go. So this is just more of a floating 15 minutes, because it starts when their tech issue starts. So if a kid is in the, is just late to the round, the 15-minute rule because of the tech, that would just start then. If a kid is performing and all of a sudden they freeze, they glitch out, they just disconnect, they're not there anymore, anything happens, like then they can stop, disconnect, try to reconnect. As long as they're back within 15 minutes, they can still perform again. And so if they perform again, you treat it just like it was their first time, right? So no penalty for if there was an issue and they had to restart and reconnect. Now, if a performer can't reconnect because they just can't, or it just is not working, we wanted to save them from the 400 that you would get for a non-performance, because it's, they might be able to get to a location that has better connection, right, by the next round. So we want them to continue to be able to perform. So the score that a judge may award for a performance that doesn't finish because of a tech issue is 490. So it's still a low score, but it's not one that's going to necessarily take them completely out of the running. Now, there's a little caveat to that. If a performer has met the minimum suggested time frame for the event, and then bumps out and can't come back, but you know that they're not done, you as a judge, you have that discretion to score them where you see fit. So they could get higher than that 490. Because if a kid goes 7 minutes of an 8-minute piece, they might be better than, you might want to score them higher than another performance in there, even if you didn't get the last 30 some seconds that they were going to do. So that's up to you to decide of what you saw. If they've gone past that minimum time, it's like when they only do a couple minutes, that's where that 490 would come in, because it would be hard to judge that against the others. All right, so I just went over a bunch of things there. So I'll take a quick break for questions. If anyone has questions about that you didn't ask in the chat.
We've answered all the questions in the chat so far, although we just got one in. Is NSDA Campus similar to Zoom? Do you see student names under their pictures? I can show that in a moment, Danielle, when it gets to my part. So I'll cover that when we get to my part.
Great, because the answer for me is, I don't know.
Mostly yes.
Great.
It's similar.
All right, so the last one here is, will competitors be provided time cards from the judge during performances? Again, to try to minimize the craziness of all the changes, especially on our judges, who are many times volunteers, many times us, that we want to make it a good, easy transition, that we are suggesting that we only guarantee time cards or hand signals for the limited prep events this year. So that way the other judges can focus on making sure that the tech is working and that they're working their critiques and everything on the computer without having to also divide their attention to time cards. But we do recognize the importance of showing time signals for limited prep, though we also realize that most students are going to be displaying a timer on their own, one would assume, in this environment. But in case they don't, and since we as the judges are the official time, we will get time. I actually made a quick video yesterday going over some hand signals that I don't know when that will be released, but shortly. I sent it to you, Courtney. I don't know if you saw it. I put it in your text.
It's on the website already.
Oh, so my goodness, it's already
when
up.
we get to my part, I'll show them where it is.
It's really exciting, guys. It's 2 minutes of pure joy. But it goes over. We just came up with some, like you can see here, for hand signals, because we assume a lot of people will probably use hand signals rather than using time cards, because again, that way they don't have to flip through different things because their hands are right here. But you can use time cards if you want. We'll use minutes left will just be on our fingers, right? The 30 seconds is a C, which I guess we are borrowing from debate. Didn't make sense to me at first, but now I see it as a half circle, like half of a clock. So that's why it makes sense to me. I don't know if that's why it was made that way, but that's how I'm remembering it. And then, 10 seconds down on the fingers, just as per normal. And then a couple other things that there's 2 other signals that we put on that video too. Simply that sometimes with tech issues, we can't communicate verbally because that is not coming across to our students. And even if we write in the chat function on that platform, if there's tech issues. So to cover all bases, we're gonna have a visual, a verbal, and a written way for people to communicate. And those 2 signals are simply, I can't hear you, but always remember to hold it a little bit because if they're glitching out, they might need a second. And then the other one is like, please stop. So you'll time out. And again, remember to hold it so that people know that it happened, because if they're glitching out, they might not see it. Okay, so a lot of this is repetitive as we go through, so I'll probably go through fast, but I just wanted to let you know. For our individual interp events, some questions we had, I don't know why this is here in broadcasting. This is in the wrong section. I'm gonna move it right now before. Sorry, please hold. Like it never happened. Okay. So for individual interp, where should you set up the camera? Again, the only thing we're asking, like for real, is that it be stationary. So you're not having somebody move things around, right? And there's no fancy editing. And the performer needs to be visible in the frame. So the frame means like the screen at all times. And then we put some like suggestion for you about what would be a good amount of a person to see. So the optimal camera distance would show the performer from like head to knees. And then a straight angle is preferred. And that means not having it tilted up or down. So we're not looking up or looking down at the performer. So oftentimes in film and broadcasting, we put the camera at head height is how we make that look straight angle. Now performers can move during their piece. So if they come up to the camera close for a minute, like that's okay, like if that's part of your blocking. But we're saying for the most part, to emulate what we see in a round, typically where we'd see the full person, we'd want to see probably part of their lower body too, for both interp and public address. Audio assistance. So you can see like right now, I'm talking to you and listening to you through the use of these wonderful AirPods. And those are fine to use by performers. If you have that option, then, or headphones, even with strings, like as long as you have one that's long enough that you don't get caught up on it, though you can use that for audio assistance. It will be helpful for the judges to be able to hear you clearly, but you don't need it. It also helps reduce, background noise being picked up as well. But it's certainly an option, not a necessity. So if your students have them, great. If they don't, that's fine too. Don't worry about it. And then as per usual, we are not allowing pre-recorded music, sound, or other audio elements. Remember that we're talking about interp right now. And then when we move into group interp, literally the same thing. Except for you just have to think about it. If you're doing the people in the same room, you have to have that camera set up so that wherever the performers, that all the performers, both or up to the 5 of them, are seen in the frame at all times. So that could be tricky. Now you could, if you wanted to have a multiple, and you could have two frames. Like you could have a group of 3 together and a group of 2 together. It's just that they can't cross. They have to stay in their box, right? But yes, you have a stationary camera. Everyone's visible in the frame at all times. Again, showing the most of the person head to knees or lower, and the straight angle at head height is preferred. Yes, we are offering these not at the middle level. So if you are a coach at the middle level, multiple and do are not being offered. So keep that in mind. We already talked about the cast change, and we talked about the restrictions for performances. So that's on there too, but no need to repeat that at the moment. Okay, so now we're moving into prepared public address. So info, sales, and oratory at the high school level. All the same visual aid rules apply that we've had in the past. So the one easel, everything must originate on the person or the easel. Those are still the same visual aid rules. We took off the screen sharing language here because NSDA campus does not have that feature. So posters, boards, those types of visual aids are still very much allowed. And so are still digital and projected visual aids as they would be traditionally. However, we discussed how to make that a little bit more accessible since most people will be in their home environment. That competitors may only use one surface for display. So we wouldn't want, like 5 TVs around them or something like that. And then they can use what we are just calling an appropriate stand to hold that projection surface, or device. That just means it doesn't have to be technically an easel. If you have a TV that you want to project to that's mounted to the wall, that's fine. The wall is an appropriate stand for that TV. If you have a TV that's on a desk or a table, that's fine. The stand can't be used for anything else. So you can't put your products around the table that your TV is on. So you can't try to skirt around the other rule that way. It can only be holding that device. Because as we know, we don't have tables for anything else, just the one easel. But this just gives you the ability to use what you have and not try to figure out how to get the TV off the wall and onto an easel. Why bother? Seems like a waste. Okay, so how should I set up this camera? The exact same way. And audio assistance, the exact same, except for I took off the part about recorded music and sound effects because it's public address. Have fun. Use it if you want. We've always been able to. This doesn't preclude you from doing it. Limited prep. So this is some of the stuff that is still being worked out into details about how it will be addressed. But John, have you guys decided any of these details? Because these are all pretty vague still about how they draw and where they prep and that kind of stuff.
Sure. I mean, I can give you kind of the rough or slightly more improved rough sketch of it. I'll just go through in order, I guess. Broadcast and Extemp will have their own Zoom prep room, essentially, where they will draw and prep. And yes, Zaz, it's a little different than we talked about the other night, but that's because Courtney and I talked afterwards, and there's just better functionality in Zoom, but it's essentially the same process. They're going to prep in Zoom, and they'll compete on campus. So they'll have a Zoom meeting that they go to, which is proctored, so they have a prep space, and there will be a breakout room where they go to either receive their broadcast material or draw their Extemp question.
That solves the issue we were talking about the other day.
It does. And then when they're done, prepping, they can navigate to their campus room where their judge will be waiting for them to perform. For impromptu, we will use what campus refers to as a utility room, which basically is just, there's no competition in there, but it's just kind of a holding place. And it's essentially the equivalent of the hallway, right? The impromptu kids are always standing in the hallway, waiting for you to call them and say, your turn to speak, right? So there'll essentially be a utility room that hopefully we'll be able to rename the impromptu hallway, and those kids will wait there. Again, anybody can come and go from a utility room. So the first speaker will go to the competition room. They'll present. When they're done, they'd be able to go to the utility room and say, we're ready for C23 or whoever is next. We're still hammering out if we can simplify that communication piece about we're ready for the next speaker, we will. But at the very least, there's a digital analog to what we usually do in person. So we're going to try it this way for the Punxsutawney we may revise that process, obviously, but we're going to try it here at the end of the month, and we'll know a lot more in 10 days or whatever.
Oh
John,
my goodness.
Yeah, Mr. Griebel.
suggestion from drama people, call it the green room.
Yes, the green room. Yes, we were going with the hallway just because that's sort of, what the familiar terminology. But yes, the green room might imply that there's like a charcuterie tray and beverages, and we don't have that. But
There will be
but I
no
get what you're coming
amenities.
from. Yeah.
All right, great. So as we keep going through here for limited prep, camera still the same, with the exception of broadcasting. You've never even seen this part before, right? Looks brand new to you. Exception of broadcasting, where students are not required to be seated, but we assume that many will probably continue that convention of being seated. So there's no real reason to show their knees necessarily in the screen. So we've provided this lovely image found on the internet that shows a good positioning, and also shows you how a good framing of your person with the eyes at the third mark, them in the center, if you want it to look nice and professional too. But that would be a good size. Or if you wanted to go a little bit lower, like, if there's a table or something, that might be a good place for them. But I think a lot of them will be just reading off of their computer, so there won't necessarily be a table in front of them because it'll be holding the computer, is my guess. But they could. Same straight angle head is preferred. Same idea about audio assistance. If you have some, use it. And then that's it for this part. Any questions about these FAQs or any other questions like this that you think we need to add answers to? You don't have to know right now. You can let us know later if you come up with something. All right.
The only question from the chat, Danielle, that we haven't covered, unless I missed it, was do impromptu kids return to the prep room after speaking or stay in the performance room? And I'll just go ahead and speak to it. Our goal is to recreate what they're used to in person. So to the extent that we can create that for impromptu, we would assume that they would stay in the performance room. Obviously, extemp and broadcasting, especially at invitationals, they're used to going back to start prepping, and that depends on the schedule the invitational person's running. But oh, John, you did answer it. There you go. Yeah, they'll stay there. They'll stay.
Perfect. Oh, goodness. Okay, website resources. So I think this is you, Courtney. Did you write this one?
Yes, I did. And so I'm happy. Do you want to switch? Because I was going to move around a little bit. Do you want me to share my screen and go from
Perfect.
there? All right. Okay. Give me 1 second to get my screen ready to go. So it's a really good time for, music or a question if you have one before I get my screen shared.
Yeah, I'll broadly just echo what Courtney was saying earlier, which is basically everything that the staff and the committee has been trying to do over the last several months of sorting this all out is recreate in the digital format as closely as possible what the kids are used to and the judges are used to in person. So we've tried to avoid deviating unless we really have to because of technology or whatever
Or safety.
else. So yeah, or safety, right? Almost always we are trying to create an analog for the thing that they're used to, the in-person competition, because that's going to make the transition easiest for everyone.
Exactly that. All right. So as Danielle just pressed, if for some reason you think that you're not seeing what you're supposed to be seeing, please just let me know and I'll go to it. But the resources page of our website has recently been updated if you're someone who frequents the website. So now always remember that you can press these buttons on the top. And if you do that, it takes you to our anchor page for resources. But now we have it broken out into debate, IE, and theater. And then also our speech activities, rules, and updates. So just to show you what you could be looking for on here, everything that Danielle has been going over is covered in this FAQ document, which is linked multiple places on the website. And I know that the committee has been sending you, and we will send you at the end of this as well. But everything else is on the IE resources page, including the ballots. And then if you scroll down, here are a lot of the videos that we have, which are also on multiple pages of the website, but all on the resources page. So this individual events overview is, it's a lot of Danielle and then some Teresa Weiler here on our website, but which we're very appreciative of. Danielle goes over all of our events just for general consumption. This is a great thing to show prospective students, parents, administration, judges, goes through all of our events. Now, this video was made pre-COVID, so that is important to watch or to know when watching. And then after you watch this, you would move on to the IE rule changes for 2020, 2021, which covers the need to know things about the events that she covered at the beginning. But here is a boiled down version of that. Here is the hand signals. I like the fact that it has thumbnail.
That's
here
the thumbnail.
Change that.
I
But
think that's also my life motto.
there you go. Here is our hand signals video that you can follow and have your judges and students be aware of before they start competing. We want them to compete. We don't want them to stop competing. But and then lastly, this one has been around for a while, but this is an IE judge instructions video. Again, it caters more to the physical world, but there's a lot of really good information in here that would apply to judges all the time. And I will be covering online judging next. So just know that these resources are available for you on the website. And then next, and I'm not looking at the chat anymore, so if there's anything in there, let me know, Danielle.
I'm looking.
I don't want to jump the gun. Are you going to cover the tab room resources that we have
Yeah.
also?
Yep, that's
Got it.
right here. Yep, so our tab room and NSDA campus resources are also on the website on each one of those pages. And so to reiterate what Danielle had said, using tabroom.com, coaches, students, and judges are all going to need accounts. So these are resources that are going to need to be consumed by all of you, whether you send them out to your judges, whether you watch them together in a Zoom setting. But if you go to our website, we have taken what we think are the most useful training documents and videos that already exist about tabroom.com and put them together in a list here. So most of what these are linking to are YouTube videos that show that have not necessarily been made by us, but Tabroom has been something that's being used nationally for years and years at this point. We've been using it in debate for a few years. So there are lots of resources on YouTube. So we've pulled out the ones that we think are best and most helpful to our members. And you can find those on here and either send your judges the exact link or send them right here. But going through how to make a student account, how to make a judge account, how to make a coach account, and then link your students to all of those things. And I am going to go into a little bit more detail here, but there's also instructions in a video that ties in NSDA Campus, which is the video conferencing platform. And so to show you that very quickly.
Brittany, I had a quick question. I was looking through the YouTube myself earlier today, and I didn't see any of the judging, i.e. our speech with the NSDA campus. Like it was all stuff when they were talking about people walking into the room. So are these videos the same ones that are a little bit older? So we just need to apply that knowledge to also this, or are these newer?
So a few of these are newer. There's this one, the judging using NSDA Campus, which is going to cover a lot of those details. That one doesn't come up as readily when you search it, right? So that was why. And then there's one for students as well. Another feature is, hopefully all of you have been to tabroom.com by now, but maybe some of you have not. But if you did spring competition or you're familiar with debate or middle level, you have. Once you have an account and you are logged into it, regardless of if you are a student, a judge, or a competitor, you have access to what you can see in the bottom right here, which is these NSDA campus test rooms. So in conjunction with watching the videos on our website, a great idea of something to do is to do, whether it's a Zoom practice with your students or a meeting with your judges, to play around with these practice rooms. I'm going to say a couple things and then I'm going to show you. So if I were to click into these rooms right now, it would bring me into a practice competition room to show you what it looks like. Now, the reason I'm not just clicking and showing you
Hello.
that is because when Danielle
Hi,
was
Heidi.
talking,
How are you?
Hi, Aaron. We're gonna mute you. Thanks.
okay, great. You really want to practice this sooner rather than later. So for instance, something I just learned today is that I have been using NSDA campus from my house all school year, but I just tried to enter a competition room and I found out that my Birmingham Public Schools server is blocking my use of NSDA campus. And we have seen that happen with some schools in debate so far who were able to find that out and remedy the situation before tournaments, and some that had that difficulty come up because they had never practiced it at a tournament. So the sooner you practice this, especially if you are one of those schools planning on going to tournaments from your school, this is something that you should practice sooner rather than later to make sure that you and all of your students can get in. I don't foresee many problems at all if they're trying to compete from home. That's been pretty easy, but some school servers block entrance into them. But to show you what it looks like, this is what the inside of an NSDA campus competition room looks like. And to answer your question from earlier, John Rutherford, it's very similar to Zoom in that it shows your name when you enter, depending on the length of your name and how many students or people are in the room as to whether it's just going to show me as CB or whether it's going to lengthen my name. But I have the ability to rename myself right away upon entering the room. It's a bit of a paradigm shift for IE, but with using Tab Room, while there are still codes and a schematic, the anonymity of no names is not as foolproof as we're used to it in person, although there is no attachment to school. It does not tell you what school any of these people are from. That is completely masked behind the tournament director's wall, but names and codes are shown in both of these to the extent that the student wants to or doesn't rename them something else. So if you can see throughout, it looks a lot like Zoom. Obviously, we won't watch this whole thing. And this was debate, so there's this many students in there, which is pretty comparable to what it would look like for an IE round as well. You do have the ability to, just like in Zoom, make some of these windows bigger if you want to look at gallery view versus speaker view. So, but make sure you are in Tab Room playing around with entering those practice rooms. Okay, and using those resources. Next, Danielle, unless there's anything in the chat I need to talk about before I continue. No,
I was just
good.
going to reiterate though.
No, you're all good.
I was just going to reiterate, you must be using Chrome as your browser.
And it will tell you that if you try to enter the room from Safari or from Internet Explorer, you will enter the room, but that box where all those windows were will say you are not using a supported browser, please use Chrome. So it will let you in, but then you'll have to leave and come back out from a different browser. Just to cover a couple of things that are also listed on the website, specifically when it comes
Brittany,
to—
I'm going to pause you for a quick second since you still
Yes.
have, Ruth has a question in here. Can you show them how to find the MIFA circuit on Tab Room so that people can find our tournaments more easily?
Yeah.
Since the list is crazy, since it's the whole country, that uses it, and for all the different types of events, all those tournaments show up when you go to search a tournament, right? Like you're going to see them just by date. So it can be very
Yes, I mean,
overwhelming.
and Ruth can correct me if I'm wrong, because I may very well be wrong, but at least when I set up my account as a coach, I joined the MIFA circuit as a coach. So those tournaments are actually pushed to my homepage, I believe. So, and I don't know if I actually know my password, but when I log in as a coach, the tournaments that are on tabroom.com and have been approved by the MIFA circuit are actually pushed to me right on the homepage. I guess there is a chance that a tournament will that's the best way that I know of. I believe if you go to the homepage and then next to that tab, the circuit page, you can search through here to press a series. This is actually the first time I've done it this way.
If you go back to the home page, Courtney,
Yes, Ruth.
see on the right side where it says circuit, drop down, find MIFA.
Oh,
there
perfect.
we go. Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah.
Pays to know. There's always an easier way. Why is it not scrolling?
Wherever it is.
I want it to scroll.
Keep going up.
I know, it's like freezing on me here.
So close.
There we go. Such a long name. There we go. Okay, so one was missing, I think, from that list. And it might be because it's a debate tournament that I'm not planning on attending. But yes, so that's one way to do it if it's not pushing directly. Thank you, Ruth. That's actually really helpful. Because yes, what people often don't realize about Tab Room is when you're on your homepage, it's just listing every tournament that's happening in in the country. But pressing your email up at the top is going to help bring you to your school's page. So in that vein, I want to draw your attention to this middle future training opportunity for Coach Tab Room drop-in assistance. So the registration deadline for the Punks Attorney, I believe, is January 26th, which is a Tuesday. Members of the MIFA office will be sitting on Zoom next Thursday, January 21st at 7, ready to help you if you need help with registration. It's a really good idea not to wait until Tuesday to tackle this process from start to finish. Danielle can echo that she's been working on hers already, for a couple weeks and has come up, periodically with like questions here and there. So trying to get your roster made ahead of time and your accounts made ahead of time. And then if you do run into any trouble, popping in to see us next Thursday might help you get registered, on time and completely, right?
Yeah.
And then go ahead, John.
I was just gonna expound on that a bit. I mean, it's a bit more cumbersome than maybe 4N or less mana. Okay, it's gonna take you a bit more time because you have to build your roster. You've got to put all your kids in first, and then you register them for a tournament. The nice thing is you only have to build your roster once. You only have to enter all those kids' names once. And then you just say, this one's going to this tournament, this tournament, this tournament, and you just check boxes from there. So it's going to be much easier, but it is a bit more time. It is a bit more time consuming on the front end.
So if you work your way through those videos on our website, all of those are under 45 minutes total. They're all like 3 or 4 minute videos. If you work your way through those and still have questions, we are happy to help you through this process, knowing that if you learn it now in January, you'll be able to do it all season long with very little hardship. And then the other two things on here to point out, I'll talk about judge certification and recertification in a second, but just in terms of judge training, we felt that there was a need for judge training, over and above our typical judge certification process, given that this is a new platform. So we have 2 dates on the calendar right now, and these are things that we encourage you as coaches either A, to come to yourself, or B, send your judges to, right? I know the burden is typically on you guys to train your judges. So these are online platform-centered trainings. These 2 judge trainings, January 26th and March 2nd, are not teaching how to judge the events, but they're teaching how to judge online using Tab Room and NSDA Campus. We are assuming, that we will record these and also be making them available if depending on, you know, participation and things like that. But we wanted to offer two, one early on and then one at the beginning of when the, you know, the height of the season is. And then last but not least, you can read our most updated information about judge initial certification and recertification, which we're still offering because we still will require for regional and state tournaments. And since we are not able to have our in-person judge workshops, we've updated that process on here. And it's outlined on the judge certification page of our website. So recertification is pretty much the same that it's always been. Initial certification is different in that they this year will have to take the multiple choice test that has always been available, but typically only taken by judges seeking recertification. And that's instead of attending the all-day workshop. So before they take that test, they would just take advantage of online resources that they will be given once they purchase it in our goods and services section of our website. And then they will attend a 1-hour Q&A webinar on one of the dates listed below that, again, once they purchase, they get to sign up for one of those dates. None of these things have to happen in a specific order, but they all have to happen as usual before the regional tournament. So Becca is going to be a great contact for in terms of processing our initial judge certification. But the first step is to purchase it on our website, and then you will be given the packet of instructions digitally once purchasing it for all of those things. What is next? I doubt that's the end of my part, right? Unless there's questions in there. That's all I got, Danielle.
Awesome. Hey, that's your part. You get to do the Q's and we'll do the A's. So what do you got for us? Oh,
You can type questions. You can, I would assume at this point, Danielle, you're okay with people shouting out questions if they have
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, you can just
Yeah.
say them out loud.
Floor is
Yep.
open.
What if last year in the spring you did the judge certification, but we shut down and you did not judge your required amount of rounds? You know,
I do believe that we said that we would extend that time frame for you to get your rounds in, because obviously that was not your choice. But I would highly, highly, highly suggest going to one of the 1-hour judge training, because that will be specific to online judging too.
You could announce yourself when you ask your question also. I think that was Russ Stansbury.
Yes.
yeah, it was Russ. I've been on camera all day, so
No
That's
worries.
totally
I
fine.
understand, Russ.
sorry.
No worries.
Other questions?
I have a question. That's Rob Ritter. Not specifically related to tonight, but thank you again for doing this because it was very informative and extremely helpful. I have extempors and I'm trying to get them some like resources like Wall Street Journal or Business Insights, like different resources. The subscriptions are outrageous. They're reasonable for students, but the only way I'm finding is to register them if they're a college student to get that type of subscription. Do you guys have any suggestions or recommendations? Because when I tried to register or get them to register, they were running into a problem that if they are not a student at a university, they could not get the student discount.
I would reach out to the publications and like do a little searching too, because like New York Times for high school educators, you set up your account and then you can share an account with your kids. Like they can set up they set up their own, but like you approve them for free.
And I think they're free right now for everyone. So most of my kids have already registered for that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reached out to Wall Street Journal and Business Insider today, but I haven't heard back yet. So I just thought I'd ask in case anyone had any tips or ideas. Thank you.
I feel like there's a lot of extra COVID bonuses out there right now like that, because they want because so many schools are remote that they're trying to provide resources. So I think you might not have that same level of help in the future, but I think that you might be able to find it now.
Okay, thank you.
And it looks like Sierra said something about they have public library cards. The library may have those free resources for them. All right, question. Duo in person is confined to the same 3-foot bubble, the whole piece, correct? They cannot, oops, it just moved. They cannot run around back and forth, but remain a constant 6 feet away. Correct. So whether they're in the same screen or if they're in separate screens, they still are going to be in the same hula hoop. And that is to make the confinement of movement similar for both people, both versions. The student does not show up to their round and their 50 minutes are up. Do we need to let anyone know? Yes, there'll be a judge meeting too at the beginning of meetings in general. But yes, I think that they will, that would be something that they give you whatever contact information they want to have you that day. My guess is probably gonna be a lot of cell phones and possibly Zoom links to other areas to talk to the tournament directors, but yeah, they'll let know. And the student would have to communicate through the coach.
It's Ruth. There's a link right in the NSDA campus room to get help.
Perfect.
And ask for assistance. There's an assistance link and an email that will directly take you to the tournament director. So if you're in your room, you can use those.
And the other piece of that, maybe this like the 10,000 foot view. Like, I think that most tournaments will operate this way. Coaches will show up in the morning for a check-in. Okay. Hopefully you will have already met with your team and you'll confirm that your kids are all healthy and ready to present and they're all ready to be online. So just the coaches are going to show up and check in and tell us if you've got drops or changes or any of that. Okay. And then there'll be a judge meeting and a general meeting. All of this takes place in Zoom. Those 3 things: check-in, general meeting, judge meeting, will all take place in Zoom. And that kind of information will be shared there, like who do you reach out to if there's a tech problem or that sort of thing. But it's also our intention to leave that Zoom meeting open the entire day. Okay, so that if you can't get into campus, you have another channel that you can check in, and basically somebody will just have that open and be monitoring that all day. So in the past, we've used it sort of as like a judge lounge. It's just an open channel for communication if you have issues. Students can get in there, judges can get in there, coaches can get in there. And then ultimately at the end of the day, awards will likely take place back in that same Zoom meeting. So it'll be the same link all day long.
I had a question here about a possibility for a utility room, either within campus or maybe an additional Zoom room being open. I think for like a lounge, but more like an adult only, like, so not the one you just described, so that coaches, because as we know, we learn a lot from each other just in the informal conversations we have at tournaments. And if we're not judging, is there a place that we could consider? So I know you can't answer that necessarily right now, but like for you and for the other tournament directors to consider if that's an option when you're planning, I think would be nice.
Certainly look at that.
All right, and I'm not seeing any other questions. Are there any other questions?
I have
yes.
a question, Danielle. I'm still looking for contact or information on Sierra, Miranda, Amber, Alyssa, and Olga.
That's Mallory's middle name is the Dara. So
no, not those. I have her. I'm looking for
Okay.
Sierra, Miranda, Amber, Alyssa, and Olga. If any of you are out there.
Yeah, I'm here, Olga.
Hi, Olga.
I'm here. Hi.
What school are you with?
Green Hills.
Excellent. Thank you. It's good to see
Welcome.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm volunteer judge, so I decided just stop by and listen. And I got a lot of interesting information, so I will go back to tab room and just see what is there around.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think that Zaz is just trying to make sure we know who attended and where you came from.
Right,
So we have Sierra here is from Anchor Bay. I assume that's what AB means. If not, that's where you're from now.
That is.
And said it's recorded. All right.
I'm just missing Miranda, Amber, and Alyssa.
You're not in trouble.
No, you're all welcome to be here. We just were curious who's here.
It's not critical. We just want to follow up and make sure that that we know who we're reaching and that we can follow up as needed.
In the meantime, maybe Gabe, did you have your hand up? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry in advance. My son is very loud. The question about the Zoom room that you had just mentioned, I know earlier you had said that there was no spectators during rounds. That Zoom room for rewards or awards, are those links going to be public? Is that going to be something that parents will be able to join with email?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me show you. Do I have screen sharing?
No, what do you want to show? Yeah,
I want
no.
to show I was going to show the schedule, either the Punks attorney schedule or the debate state final schedule. Essentially what we've been doing is we've been posting the schedule as a spreadsheet. And then we've been on the side of it, we've been putting a spot for like rolling changes, right? Like, you know, if round 2 is going to be 15 minutes late, we just put it there so that everybody knows round 2 is going to be, you know, running a little bit behind. And that way, you know, you don't have to answer that question a million times. And the Zoom link is posted right inside the schedule. There, Courtney's got that. So the Zoom link will be posted right there. And any changes would be posted in this box on the right-hand side. It worked really well.
It's a deep enough link that I don't think you're going to get a lot of strangers that are going to try to bomb in. Like, it's going to be hard enough to find, but easy enough to find if you're supposed to know where it is.
True.
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't, you know, knock on wood, haven't had any issues. So, hey guys.
So the only thing left in our agenda for today was just our contact information that you have. Again, I'm just that you have the MIFA office. When you guys go to the actual presentation, which I'll put in the chat once again here, just in case you didn't get it the first time, you don't have to scroll all the way back up. Those are links to our emails, so you can use there. If you have a question for the office, and if you have a question in general for your IE committee rep, there we are, all listed there. We have several with us today. I know we have Ken is with us, and I'm here, and Zaz is here, and Karen's here. I think that is it for Ted. I don't know, I didn't see the whole list. But yeah, so we're all here tonight, but everybody is available. And I am the chair of the IE committee this year. So if you, for some reason, are having a hard time connecting, feel free to reach out to me as well. Even if you're not in Region 3, I will answer your emails if they're written nicely. But yeah, so if you don't know what region you're in, that would be a good one to reach out to me, and I can help direct you to know which region you're in. Because if you're new, you might not. It's a weird world we live in, and some of us that have been around for a while forget how weird it is because it's become second nature to us. So no question is too small. We will answer it as quickly as we can. So we're here for you. We're here for the kids. We're really trying to make this a meaningful experience for this year of crazy, that they have something that at least imitates something that we would normally do, and try to provide them that experience. So if you have any other questions or suggestions, please send them our way. We do talk about and consider everything that comes our way. And you guys are so much faster. The last group, we went on for like 2 hours. So you guys are killing it. That doesn't mean if you had a question right now, you shouldn't answer it. But otherwise, our presentation is done for today. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn.
Thank
I
you
have
for
a quick
having this.
question
It
for
was
Kathy
great.
Tarr.
What's that?
Has your phone number changed?
No.
It's weird. I tried to text you a while ago, and it said it was disconnected because I found
stopped the
pictures
recording.
of you from, yeah, stop the recording.